obligations to your family. There are some times that we have to do actions that we would otherwise not want to do because we have a sense of responsibility to our families. So I would like to tell two stories about my grandparents who lost their fathers, and they were left with responsibility to their family, and they made sacrifices for the sake of the well-being of their family. My grandfather was born in Poland during the 1920s. When he was 13 years old, his father passed away, and he was left as the only male member of his family. And when he was 17, the Second World War broke out, and the Germans occupied Poland. That winter, the food was very scarce, and his mother bought a goose from the black market in order to feed their family. She kept it in a shed outside their. She kept it in a pot in a shed outside of their house. One day, she looked into the shed, and she found that the pot was missing. Apparently, it was stolen. So she called my grandfather and said, "Naftali, go outside and find out what happened to that goose." So my grandfather ran out of the house, and he asked some passerbys if they noticed any suspicious activities. They said that they saw two gypsies carrying off an object wrapped in white sheets, and they went in the direction of a neighboring village. So my grandfather chased after them, running over the frozen fields and crossing a bridge over an icy creek until he finally caught up with those gypsies. And sure enough, he found that there were two gypsy women carrying an object wrapped in the white sheet. He snatched the sheets, ripped them off, and sure enough, he found a pot with a chicken that was stolen from his mother. In the meantime, the gypsies tried to intimidate him by asking each other for a knife. My grandfather maintained his composure, and he brought the pot back to his village, where he was acclaimed as a hero. His family was very grateful to him for the fact that he was able to recover the goose, and he said that was probably the last time, before the end of the war, that he was able to eat meat. Although he confessed that he was petrified during his encounter with the gypsies, he remained firm because of his commitment to his family. My second story took place with my grandmother, who hid in France, in the French countryside during the war. Her father was deported to Auschwitz, where he was killed, where he passed away. So, my grandmother and her mother were left to take care of her 5 siblings, because my grandmother was the oldest sibling. One year after the war, their mother was sick for Passover, so my grandmother was in charge of holding responsibility for her siblings during that Passover. Since their mother wasn't there, they had to be invited out for their meals. For one meal, the hostess served matzah balls, which is traditional to serve for Passover. While most of the time, the matzah balls are round, fluffy, and delicious. Those ones were awful. They tasted so bad that when the hostess stepped out of the room in order to prepare the next course, my grandmother's siblings poured their matzah balls into her bowl. So my grandmother was stuck eating like 10 matzah balls before the hostess came back. She was furious, but she had to do it anyway, because she was afraid that if the hostess would see that they did not like her cooking, then they would lose the rapport that they had with her. Because of her responsibility to her family, my grandmother sat down and ate all of those matzah balls. So she was willing to sacrifice because of her responsibility for her family. In all of these stories, In both of these stories, my grandparents were in an unpleasant situation, but they were able to continue to hold on because they had a commitment to their family. My grandfather was petrified. There was a captain with those gypsies. And my grandmother did not find it so pleasant to eat those matzo balls. But they had to remain firm. They had to do it anyway, because they had a sense of responsibility for their families. So we have to take the inspiration from them and to do whatever we can for the well-being of our family members.